A Love Through Time, the destined entanglement of Li Wei Wei and the ancient General Feng Xujin. From a modern hospital internship to accidentally stepping into the ancient court struggles, how will she use her modern knowledge to influence the ancient world? A novel that blends history, romance, and adventure, taking you on a romantic journey across time and space. Subscribe to our channel and follow Li Wei Wei's steps to explore her cross-era love story with the General. Prologue, 21st century. Heading to the hospital for her internship, Li Wei Wei wears a black and white floral dress that matches her flat shoes. She was a fresh beauty, with large eyes and lips which always carried a smile. While walking with her best friend Song Jia-yi, she suddenly suggests the weather seems very nice. Maybe we should grab some iced chocolate at the cafe later. Song Jia-yi only nodded, looking at her best friend who was staring at the sky while smiling so brightly. So silly, she thought. Morning, Dr. Li. Morning, Nurse Mo. They greeted their seniors on their way to their respective rooms. On a sunny day, reading a novel during her break time was her best option to escape boredom. Li Wei Wei is currently reading a novel titled The General. She borrowed it from the library located opposite the hospital yesterday. While exploring some books for her medical assignment, she coincidentally discovered a book at the end of the bookshelves. Seems like an old book. She stared a bit longer at the book while thinking whether she wanted to read it or not. The front cover of the book captivated her. It was a picture of a man holding a magnificent sword with his back facing the reader. Li Wei Wei is a big fan of romantic and horror novels, but she doesn't know why this novel attracts her like a magnet. The novel is basically about the general's life and death. She learns that he has a cold and ruthless personality. If someone like him existed, our world would be in peace, right? Li Wei Wei stared at the novel currently. In her first chapter, maybe. Song Jia-yi said while frowning because of the brightness of the sun. He seems like a great man, and I wonder what would he look like. Before Li Wei Wei could finish talking, she was interrupted by the sound of her alarm. Indicated that their recess time is over. Continued doing her particular work, which was filled with helping patients and learning further about medical assistance. On their way back, they went to the cafe to grab some drinks just like they planned earlier. Then both of them go back to their room, which is at the girls' dorm. See you tomorrow and have a good night. Li Wei Wei waved at her best friend who was currently heading to her room. Song Jia-yi just waved lazily as she felt so tired. Went inside her room, and she felt blissful looking at her bed. She quickly took a shower, wearing her polka dot pajamas, and directly lay down on her favorite bed. Maybe I should sleep early today. Her mind wandered with her eyes closed, trying to sleep. All of a sudden, the image of the man, or the general's back, popped up in her mind. Her eyes went wide, and she sprung out of her bed, searching for the book in her bag. Searching for it hastily, she finally found it. She then swiftly turned it to the 4th page where she stopped at. Let's skip to the climax since I have a very tight schedule for tomorrow. She talked to herself, realizing it was impossible to finish it right away. She skipped a lot of chapters. She caught a glimpse of the emperor choosing a wife for the general. Li Wei Wei also read a very brief chapter where the general was killed by his enemy. In that chapter, the death of the general is caused by his enemy and one of his mates who betrayed him using a cunning act and cruel scheme. During this chapter, Li Wei Wei is unknowingly attacked by a wave of sadness emotion. She didn't know why, but her eyes felt burning. Then her tears fell like a river. Why am I feeling this way? Why do I feel so heartbroken for him? She thought about it while sobbing. Grabbing a pile of tissues to wipe her tears, it seemed like it didn't want to stop. She felt so sorrowful. Only a few pages left. She still hasn't read about the mastermind behind the general death. Li Wei Wei then put the book and went to sleep, laying down while staring at her ceiling. She keeps on recalling the death of the general. At last she cries herself to sleep. Gonna continue reading it tomorrow night. Chapter 1, Ancient Era. Waking up in an unfamiliar place. She was scared out of her wits. Li Wei Wei is currently lying on a traditional antique bed. Today she woke up from sleep just like usual, but she senses everything is different. Opening her eyes, it felt very heavy. She then remembered that she cried a lot yesterday because of the novel. The heavily swollen eyes stared at the ceiling, then glancing at the surroundings of the room. She could see a lot of the ancient Chinese artifacts around her. What is happening? Li Wei Wei whispered to herself. She suddenly smiled at the thought. Maybe I was dreaming. Let's sleep again. Suddenly, there was a faint voice in her ear. Ended with a warm and soft tone. The name Wei Er was repeated over and over again. Her shoulder was gently shaken by someone. But Li Wei Wei only felt hot and tired. Her eyes were sore and tingling. Who is talking to me? Li Wei Wei thought subconsciously, but suddenly she just realized. That could there be someone else in her room when she lived alone? Scared to the point she could feel her eyes started to brimming with tears. Thinking someone had broken into her room was terrifying. Suddenly, she heard a soothing voice probably belonging to an old woman. Li Wei Wei could hear the woman crying from the way her voice sounded slightly quivering. Wei Er, wake up, mother is here. Please don't make mother worry. Li Wei Wei endured the dull pain in her head and struggled hard to open her eyes. In front of her, there is someone with charming beauty, even though she seems like she is in her 40s. She dressed in traditional Chinese garments. Items of clothing that were worn in the ancient Chinese dynasties. Wei Er, my daughter, are you okay? Does it still hurt? Why are you making us worry? Your father is very worried. Behind the woman, there are also a few people with their heads bowed down looking very similar to a maidservant. At this moment, they all stared at her with worried eyes, as if they were waiting for her to answer the question. Being thrown with a lot of questions, Li Wei Wei answered back with a question. Who are you? This question makes all of them, especially the women in front of her. You don't remember, mother? Oh my daughter. Bring the physician quickly. The woman's face was instantly covered with a very worried emotion. Did I time travel to the ancient era? But why? I don't even read the whole book. Plus, I didn't see any character named Li Wei Wei in the novel. What am I supposed to do? Her head filled with a lot of questions led her to dizziness. She decided to ask the woman about her identity. The physician's arrival halted her questions. The physician then asked her to lay bare her pulse to check her condition. Li Wei Wei did it without any delay. Young Miss suffered from a memory loss. She fell from a high place, right? I can't do anything. Let young Miss remember everything on her own. I will leave a prescription for the wound. Once the physician left, her mother rushed to her side and said, It is okay if you don't remember, mother, as long as you are healthy. Li Wei Wei suddenly felt gloomy due to her kindness. She suddenly misses her real mother. Frustrated by the sudden time travel, she cried out in her mind. God, why did you suddenly transfer me back to the ancient world? Why me? Without any hesitation, her mother hugs her while trying to calm the girl down. I'm sorry for making you worry. I didn't mean to err. Mother, can you help me remember all of the things that I had forgotten? It seems you've forgotten everything. She replied and gently caressed Li Wei Wei's cheeks and nodded. Wei Er, don't worry. Mother will help you regain your memories. She realized that she was currently in the Tang Dynasty. During the Tang Dynasty rule, China experienced a time of peace and prosperity that made it one of the most powerful nations in the world. This period is sometimes referred to as the Golden Age of ancient China. Her eyes suddenly widen when she recalls that the era she got transmigrated in is where the general exists and dies soon. Should I save him? Or should I let the plot repeat itself? Chapter 2. Ministerly Manner. Starting the day with a new identity feels a bit giddy for Li Wei Wei. Her father in this ancient world didn't take any concubine, so she is the only child in the family. Most job was to think about how to save the great general. Yes, Li Wei Wei has decided to save him since she is already here. After all, it is a human life. I couldn't ignore it because of the unknown plot, Li Wei Wei convinced herself. She feels so unfair that out of nowhere she had time travel into this era. But when she thought on the positive side, it was not so bad. She has the chance to explore new things. Much prefer the ancient era when there was no technology is one of Li Wei Wei's other side that no one knows. This is why she loves reading historical novels and drama. But after some time living here, she does feel weird with all the customs about things. She snapped out of her thoughts when a maidservant called her. Miss, do you need anything? Li Wei Wei heard a frantic yelling from a young girl with two adorable space buns wrapped in ribbon. May I know what is your name? Li Wei Wei asked carefully because she was still not used to talking down to someone. Of course, miss, don't be so polite. Nobi doesn't deserve that, and Nobi name is Chi-Chi. Okay, Chi-Chi, can you help me tie my hair? Li Wei Wei smiled a bit while shaking her hair, feeling uncomfortable with the very long hair. Chi-Chi quickly asked her to sit down in front of an ancient mirror. Li Wei Wei finally saw her face. This body had the same face as hers in the modern world. Chi-Chi, how am I in the past? Li Wei Wei feels curious, and she would like to know the original owner's personality. You were a bit shy and quiet in the past, miss. As you are the only child. Master and Madam always pampered you. Please pardon Nobi for my improper words, miss. Chi-Chi quickly kneeled after she said that. Li Wei Wei quickly helps her get up. Chi-Chi and all the servant noticed that their miss had changed for good. She became good-natured. No more an overly shy young miss anymore. The servants have been talking about it due to Li Wei Wei awkwardly smiling and greeting everyone. She seems like a very different person. Madam and Master were glad that you are becoming more active and cheerful since the accident. Hearing this, Li Wei Wei feels delighted that they like her. She smiled brilliantly, leaving Chi-Chi awestruck. Chi-Chi, I would like to go out after this. Will you show me the capital? She excitedly imagined what the capital would look like. The capital city of the Tang Empire and the center of the government was the city of Chang'an. The emperor lived in the capital and ruled over his vast empire. Sure, Miss Nobi will inform Madam later. Changing into a beautiful light pink outfit with Chi-Chi's ancient hairstyles. She looks so different, but a good difference. Chi-Chi came back telling her that her mother gave her some money to buy some goods for herself. Li Wei Wei learned that her mother Lu Rui is the daughter of the minister for the previous ruler. Her father is the current Minister of Education, Minister Li Feihong. So they are indeed not related to the general. They also did not appear in the novel. Chi-Chi also told her that all the outsiders assumed that Minister Li Feihong's daughter was ugly and disfigured, as the previous owner rarely went out. Even in the ancient world, they still judge someone based on their beauty. She sighed heavily. But the real owners don't like to interact with people. She likes to be alone, even with her parents. She rarely spoke with them. Chang'an City. Strolling through the busy crowd, Li Wei Wei skipped happily. Her eyes wander at the bustling crowd. While Chi-Chi couldn't keep up with her miss. She looks at her miss, who enthusiastically looking around. Ignorant at the way people look at her. Li Wei Wei greets the merchant who sells things. Chi-Chi felt a little worried about the way everyone looked at her young miss. Who is she? I've never seen her before. She is so beautiful. Which family daughter is she? Her miss rarely goes out, so Chi-Chi feels a little anxious about how the people react. In the past, if her miss goes out, she always wears a veil. Miss, wait for Nobi. Chi-Chi ran after her because Chang'an City was so crowded. Li Wei Wei looks back at Chi-Chi and waits for her to catch up. They stop at the jewelry shop. She is immediately attracted to the jade hairpins and suddenly thinks of her real purpose. Chi-Chi, do you know General Feng Xujin? If I want to meet him, where do I find him? Hopefully, she could gain some information about the general. Of course, miss, we all know General. Everyone is afraid of the general. Why do you want to meet the general, miss? Chi-Chi feels chilled run down through her veins when she talks about the general. Why should I be afraid of him? He protects his own country and citizens. And I have some business with him. Respect and admiration can be seen in Li Wei Wei's eyes while she talks about the general. Everyone around them could hear everything that she said. Uncle, I want to buy these hairpins. How much for all of this? Li Wei Wei picked 3 hairpins. One is for herself, her mother, and Chi-Chi after they paid for it. Li Wei Wei decided to look for some delicacies. She bought 2 Tonghulu delicacies and gave one to Chi-Chi. While eating, they heard a frantic yelling from someone nearby. General Feng Xujin has come back from the war. He wins the war. Make way for the general. Chapter 3. Chang'an City. Everyone started to push each other to make way for the general. Li Wei Wei was so shocked that her lips were a bit open with Tanghulu inside. She couldn't believe that she was going to meet the general she had read in a book. Shook out of her thoughts, Li Wei Wei tries to stand on her toes to see the general. Chi-Chi, did you hear that the general is coming? But which one is Feng Xujin? Chi-Chi looks down after pointing at Feng Xujin. People even bow their heads a bit to avoid any eye contact with the cold-blooded general. But her young miss jumped up to see the general. At the end of the road, stood proudly the General Feng Xujin. He looks at the crowd, he finds them avoiding him. Feng Xujin immediately commands his soldiers to move forward. He is actually on his way to the palace. He is required to make a report about his return and to inform the emperor about the war. The earlier buzzing city fell into a dead silence and started to line up on the side to let the general get through. With his stoned face on, his horse ran through the crowd. Feng Xujin's eyes are on the road, Jin. They are afraid of you. Maybe you should try to smile a bit. His only friend Zhao Li said all of a sudden. The corner of his eyes caught a small petite hand waving at him. He is taken aback by the action. But he just ignored it. She is indeed beautiful. But Feng Xujin is more amused by her gesture. He could see that the girl was smiling. Who is she? Is she not afraid of me? He thought. The other subordinates also saw the way that lady waving at their leader. But they have never seen her before. Li Wei Wei had imagined that the general was going to be handsome. But she did not know he would be this godly and good-looking. General, don't blame me if I had a crush on you. No, Li Wei Wei, you are here to save him. Not flirting or dating. You need to go back to your real home, which is in a modern world. She reminds herself. Chi-Chi looks at her miss weirdly. After the general troops fade away, they immediately head back home. How am I going to talk to him? Do I need to make an appointment to meet him? Li Wei Wei asked Chi-Chi, Miss, what is an appointment? Chi-Chi doesn't understand, pardon me. Chi-Chi quickly apologizes for not understanding her miss. Nothing, hee, it's not your fault. Li Wei Wei awkwardly said. She realized that the ancient people spoke in the traditional Chinese language, not the modernized one. Li Wei Wei somehow got used to her ancient life. She could say that she is good at adapting to a new environment. But she still hadn't met any other characters other than the general. Sighing loudly, an idea shows up. One of the plots in the novel strikes into her thoughts. Should I become his matchmaker? Knowing that his future wife, whom the emperor chose not suitable for the general, doesn't sit right with her. I'm gonna change everything before I leave. Li Wei Wei is determined to save the general. Chi-Chi currently helping Li Wei Wei get ready for dinner with her family. Husband, how was your day at the palace? Madame Li asked while sitting down. Minister Li started. Today the emperor has announced that our country will be celebrating the Empress Dowager's birthday next week. So father wants to ask whether Wei wants to attend the birthday banquet. Li Wei Wei's eyes fill with eagerness. This is the only chance she could meet all the royal family, which she has learned in the novel. Yes, father, I would love to. I won't embarrass you at the banquet. I will be at my best. Li Wei Wei immediately thanked her father and mother while they hugged her. She spends the whole night choosing some beautiful clothes. Right, maybe the general will be there too, she thought. Li Wei Wei is going to use this chance to tell him about his fate. Chapter 4: The Empress Dowager's Birthday. Ministerly manner. Today is the day of the birthday banquet of the country's Empress Dowager. Li Wei Wei asked for Chi-Chi's help in wearing the ancient clothes for the banquet. She finds it a bit complicated as it has a lot of layers. Young miss, Chi-Chi will make you the most beautiful at the banquet tonight. Chi-Chi confidently talked as she continued to brush Li Wei Wei's luscious, ink-like hair, long, smooth, and beautiful. Li Wei Wei chose a sky blue hanfu that alternated in shades, and a white floral lace covering her body and dress elegantly. Chi-Chi paired off the dress with a simple hairstyle that included a braided bun enclosed by jade hairpins that they bought, letting the rest of her hair flow freely. Li Wei Wei is very satisfied with the way she looks, and she thanked Chi-Chi for helping her. Then a loud yelling can be heard. The voice belongs to her father calling her. I'm coming, father. Wait a minute, mother, let's go. Her mother grabbed her hand, and they ran hand in hand. Li Wei Wei and her family finally get inside the carriage and immediately set off. Her father is afraid they will be late on their way, snacking her head out from time to time to see the neighborhood area, while enjoying the scenery. She also saw some prestigious families heading to the palace. General Feng Manor. One of his subordinates went inside his room. The general was immediately alerted by this. What is it? This voice would make everyone who hears his voice will be weak on the knees. But the subordinates had already gotten used to his cold voice. While bowing, the subordinates said, The emperor wants you to attend the Empress Dowager's birthday banquet. It was to start later. Inform Zhao Li to come. Feng Xujin instructed the guard. General Feng Xujin has no interest in such festivals. He preferred to stay at the manor or go to war. But he had no choice since the emperor personally asked him to attend it. He immediately changed into proper clothes. Then quickly ride the horse heading to the palace with a cold face. The palace. Li Wei Wei's getting immersed in the palace. It was so big that a giant could live in there. She and her mother got down from the carriage heading inside. She could hear the lively atmosphere from inside. A lot of the ladies from a prestigious family are already inside. She could imagine what the emperor would look like. His Majesty must look very intimidating. She thought Wei go inside first. Find some friends, there are a lot of ladies inside. Her mother wants Li Wei Wei to befriend other ladies. Inside the palace filled with beautiful women and men talking to each other. They began to compare how they look today. Tonight, I'm the most beautiful. The princes and the general will surely notice me. The one talking so proudly is the daughter of Prime Minister Jiang. Her name is Jiang Liao. She is considered the most beautiful unmarried lady in the capital. A lot of unmarried men try to pursue her, but she only looks up to men at a higher level. Jiang Liu feels very confident that she will become the crowd's attention. All of a sudden the crowd went silent. It was due to the general's arrival. The guard announces that the general has arrived and all the men get jealous by his appearance, while the lady envies him and tries to appeal. But the general ignored all of them and proceeded to his seat, which was near the emperor. The emperor is glad that the general came because he is trying to find a suitable wife for him. If His Majesty had a daughter, he would bestow Feng Xujin a marriage with his daughter. Unfortunately, he is only blessed with princes. All of a sudden the crowd went silent once again. But there is no announcement from the guard. Walking inside slowly was Li Wei Wei. She is so amazed by all the good-looking people that she doesn't realize they are looking at her. She then smiles and waves at them by saying a small hi. They only look at her actions weirdly. The way she moves makes all the men starstruck. Her sky-blue hanfu matches perfectly her white milky skin. The way she gains attention makes girls jealous. Who is she? She is so beautiful. I'm the most beautiful, not her. She looks so adorable. Praise can be heard from the crowd. But she does not care about the attention on her. She just needs to find someone. Li Wei Wei tried to look for the familiar face in the hall but failed. Unknown to her. The general is looking straight at her. He never thought he would meet this girl again. Feng Xujin has to admit she is cute. He did feel something stir within him when men swooned while looking at her. His eyes fill with dangerous glint. He doesn't know why, but she attracts him. Her behavior is very different from normal people in his world. While he is trying to read her, His Majesty sees the way he looks at her at first. The emperor was shocked as the general had never cast a look on women. Then the emperor smiles secretly, but he also doesn't know who this girl is. Chapter 5 Birthday Banquet started. The banquet finally started. Everyone takes their seats. Then the eunuch started to give some instructions. Li Wei Wei already gives up on searching for the general. She feels so miserable and pouted at her mother. Her mother asked her why. I couldn't find the general. Disappointment can be heard in her voice. Her mother tried to persuade her. The general is at the front with all the officials, so it is normal if we couldn't see him. Later, if we get the chance, we will eventually see him. Okay, mother, she said out of a sudden. The emperor's voice can be heard throughout the hall. Ministerly. Jean heard this year you bring your daughter to the banquet. She rarely goes out right. Jen would like to see her. Where is she? Li Wei Wei was too shocked, but she went near her father as her mother told her to. Your Majesty, it is true I brought my daughter today. Wei, come here. Minister Li could see that Li Wei Wei was very nervous because she was currently hiding behind a pillar. Instantly, all the attention falls on her. She felt her heart beating so fast that she felt like running away from there. But Li Wei Wei couldn't do that to her father. She slowly went to his father and then bowed down to the emperor. It is a shame to hide such an adorable daughter like her. All the rumors about her being ugly seem baseless. What is your name, young lady? All the ladies get struck by jealousy as the emperor praises the girl's beauty. They couldn't believe that Minister Li had such a divine daughter. Looking up at Lu Zhao, the Weizong emperor of Dynasty Tang. She is speechless. Even though he is a bit aged but still exudes the monarch vibe. Li Wei Wei couldn't believe her eyes. On the right and left were the Empress and Empress Dowager. The princes are not here because they have been assigned by His Majesty to complete a mission to succeed the throne. My name is Li Wei Wei. This servant greets Your Majesty. Hope you live a long life quickly. Li Wei Wei let her eyes everywhere, but not against the Emperor's eyes. Her eyes unexpectedly caught the handsome, unmoving statue sitting in the corner. I finally found you, cheering to herself. She found out that he was also staring at her, so she gave him a small wave. This gesture did not escape the spectators' eyes. They envy her. This Li Wei Wei has the guts. The general was taken aback once again but didn't show any emotion. He thought very hard, Minister Li's daughter. But why did she seem like she knew me? Li Wei Wei finally feels better after seeing the general. She then looked up to the emperor and smiled. The emperor admits that this girl is charming. The emperor has been wanting a daughter, but it was not his destiny to have a daughter. Li Wei Wei, do you have anything to say to Zhen? Everyone thought that the emperor was mad. Nothing, Your Majesty. But I do have something to show you. Li Wei Wei knew the emperor in front of her was a great one. So she has no resentment towards this emperor. Everyone was expecting something magnificent. But she suddenly holds up her little thumb with all the other fingers folded inside. Your Majesty, this servant has nothing special to give you nor to say to you. But I have this gesture for you as you have made a big contribution to the country. I believe you're going to be one of the great emperors in history. Please stay healthy. I wish you a long, long life. The crowd was shaking, fearing for His Majesty's wrath. Your Majesty, forgive my daughter for her imprudent act. She recently fell and lost her memories. So she is a bit rude. Li Wei Wei started to think, did I do something wrong? Unexpectedly, laughter could be heard throughout the hall. She is good with words, Minister Li. Li Wei Wei, from now on you can enter the palace anytime. This emperor and the empress would love to have some companion. The empress only nodded, knowing that the emperor was in a great mood today. Everyone was shocked by the emperor's laugh, and His Majesty permitted her to enter the palace anytime. Thank you, Your Majesty, for your generosity, Li Wei Wei and her father said at the same time. Then they went back to their seats. Then all of them began to proceed by presenting their luxurious gift to the Empress Dowager. Outside the palace after the ceremony, everyone is allowed to go around the palace. Li Wei Wei quickly searches for the general. After looking around the palace, she still couldn't find him. But her eyes stopped at the bunch of fruit on a tree. Feng Xujin currently walking with some officials discussing some important matters. He wandered around after he was done with the officials. He wants to escape from all the ladies. A petite silhouette caught his eyes. He instantly knew she was the one who kept bothering him these days. She is so careless. What is she trying to do? He saw that Li Wei Wei was going to fall. Suddenly she slips from the tree with the fruit that she has picked, getting ready to feel and hear some cracked sound from her body due to the fall. Her body suddenly was engulfed by a large hand. Her savior appeared out of nowhere. Feng Xujin used his flying skills to catch her. His hands wrap around her small waist. He can see that the girl shut her eyes tightly. They finally descend safely. Thank you. Li Wei Wei finally opens her eyes and quickly looks up at the man who saved her. She would like to say thank you, but she was surprised to see the man she had been looking for. Chapter 6. Her shocked face of her instantly replaced by a happy face. Li Wei Wei quickly expressed her gratitude. Thank you for saving me. And I've been searching for you. Staring down at the lady in his arms. She seemed so small compared to him. For the first time in his life, he felt so curious about a girl. Feng Xujin easily put the girl down on her foot. Why did you look for me? He is a man who doesn't talk much. Right now Li Wei Wei is dumbfounded. She doesn't know what to tell him. So she decided to give him some clues. I just want to tell you to be careful with your surroundings. Trust no one with a serious face. Li Wei Wei pointed it out carefully. She hopes the general will understand. Shocking was an understatement. The general felt something warmth in his cold heart. A lot of questions going through his head. Once he calmed himself down, he was going to ask her something. Where? Let's go home. Madame Li's voice can be heard from their positions. Yes, mother, give me a minute. She quickly looked at the general who stood there without saying anything. Li Wei Wei grabbed one of his big hands and put some of the fruit on it. About your future wife. I'm gonna find someone for you, bye. Waving her hand and walking away while saying those words. Feng Xujin couldn't utter a word. He watched her go away while waving her hands at him. He was speechless. The merciless general stood there, trying to process everything that she told him. A gust of wind suddenly appears, which indicates the arrival of his shadow guard. Master, should I follow the lady? He has never seen his master speechless. The guard feels a bit worried about his master's mood. Feng Xujin finally let out his voice. I will handle about this myself. He then rushes to his manor to handle some important matter, trying to stay focused on his work, but her voice has been living in his head. The fruit in his hand is still intact and untouched, remembering every single word that she said. He couldn't help but feel cared for by someone. But his mood suddenly dropped when he remembered she said that she was going to choose his future wife herself. Who is she trying to choose a wife for, this general? While Zhao Li, who has been standing at the door, looks at his friend. Something big must have happened. Zhao Li is going to investigate it. Jean, or did you pick the fruits for me? Then I'm gonna eat it deliciously. Zhao Li trying to get some clues. Once Feng Xujin saw Zhao Li going near him, he quickly ate the fruit within one day. News about Minister Li's daughter's beauty has been spread throughout the entire city, becoming a hot topic among the public. They began to praise her beauty and forget rumors about her ugliness. Discussions about who is the most beautiful in the capital started to take place. They compared Li Wei Wei with Prime Minister Zhang's daughter, Jiang Liao. Unfortunately, the praises faded away in a gust, immediately been buried by hateful rumors. News about how the emperor gave her a special pass also caused some commotion. They are questioning whether this young is worth it. There are even some of them trying to tarnish Li Wei Wei's image by spreading malicious rumors. Some even felt jealous and exaggerated the rumors to the point people started to believe in them. I heard the miss a shameless lady. Someone saw her hug the General Feng Xujin. Yes, we also saw how she kept on smiling at the general, but the general ignored her. I'm pretty sure she is trying to seduce him but failed miserably. Ha 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 ha, pity her. Slut like her do not deserve special treatment from your majesty. She is just a worthless bitch. The news had reached Li Wei Wei's ear, but she tried to ignore all of it. Having experienced this kind of situation in the modern world doesn't make her less hurt. Why, there are always some people who would hate us out of nowhere, she said to herself. Li Wei Wei tried to display that she was okay. She doesn't want her mother and father worried about her. When hearing these rumors, her mother was so mad that she wanted to hit whoever spread gossip about her daughter. But her father didn't want to worsen the situation. I'm just trying to save the general. Seems like the modern world and ancient era are the same. With her hands on her cheeks, she lazily mumbles it while watching her figure in the mirror. Nobi don't understand what is miss implying, but you did nothing wrong, miss. Don't listen to the groundless rumors. Chi-Chi couldn't do anything to help her, miss. Miss, these days you rarely go out. Is it because of them? Chi-Chi carefully asked. She doesn't want to hurt her miss' feelings. Li Wei Wei only nods her head. The truth is she feels so bad for her father. Her father also has a huge impact and tarnished image on him because of her. She could keep her feelings aside, but her family's feelings are the most important. I hope these rumors will fade away soon enough. She sighed heavily. Chapter 7, General Feng Manor. Feng Xujin has been living in his study room for the past few days, so he has no idea about the rumors going around. Footsteps can be heard, so he immediately looks up to see who had the nerves to disturb him in the middle of settling an important matter. The new guard could feel the murderous aura that exudes from the general. He is afraid of his wrath, but he must tell the general about the rumors that involving him. What is it? This line only adds up the fear in the guard. Telling himself to stop shaking, he began. Master, there is a rumor about you going around the capital. Should we shut it down? Feeling a bit relieved, he finally calmed down. Let it be, act like usual, but the rumor involved young Miss Li Wei Wei as well. Once this sentence is said, the general looks up in a speedy motion. A dangerous glint shone in his eyes. It was obvious that he was displeased, and even in the dark, the guard could feel that he was furious. Feng Xujin furiously said, what is the rumor about? He didn't know why the master reacted so differently when he mentioned the young Miss name. It is about Miss Li Wei Wei trying to seduce the general. They said she is a shameless woman who likes to seduce men. Some of them said that they saw the young miss hug you. Hearing this furious would be an understatement. Feng Xujin was trembling with rage. But he tries to stay calm. How dare they spread such a rumor, shadow guard? Hearing that the master was furious, he didn't waste any time to appear in front of the master. Settle this matter quickly and quietly indeed. He didn't care about his image as it had been tarnished for a long time, but he felt somehow irritated with her involvement. Understood, master, I will leave first. He is in the middle of leaving when he is stopped by his master's voice. Lastly, check her condition and report to me immediately. Feng Xujin is bothered by the image of her feeling down because of the rumors. He couldn't understand this new feeling. Feng Xujin finally decides to regard his feelings as a feeling of indebtedness. Maybe it was because she cared for me, so I tried to repay. A bird chirping indicates that his guards have some news. In the small paper, his guard informed him that the rumors had slowed down. This morning he headed straight to the palace. He has been summoned by the emperor to enter the palace as soon as possible. Feng Xujin could tell that it was about the reward for his victory in the war. It is a normal gift, which is silver and jade. He quickly entered the palace. Glancing around, he saw that the officials already get into their positions, greeting the emperor with respect. He just wants to get this over. Is there any important matter that your majesty called me in today? The great general has come to a marriageable age. Xujin will bestow you a wedding with one of the minister's daughters. The last sentence made all the official gasps. The emperor trying to set up a wedding for the most feared general. Everyone knows that they couldn't afford to act carelessly towards Feng Xujin. He held the military power if he wants. He could raise a revolt. Feng Xujin didn't see this coming, but he maintained his mood. This general hadn't thought about marriage as I was busy. But since your majesty think for my sake, I will think about it. He can just refuse it, but he needs to save some face for the emperor's sake. He wouldn't let the officials look down on their ruler. After Feng Xujin left, the officials brag about their daughter. As soon as the officials went home, they told their daughter to make some effort to seduce the general. In a gust of wind, the news of the general getting married passed by everyone's ear in the capital. All the ladies tried to appear pleasantly in front of the general. Some even feel disappointed as if they knew who the general was going to choose. All of them predicted it was Prime Minister Jiang's daughter Jiang Liu. Prime Minister Jiang is considered one of the most powerful officials in the capital. So it is considered normal for Jiang Liu to marry the general. Chang'an City in a luxury tea shop. A few ladies are talking about who is going to be the bride of the general. I believe it is going to be me. Because I'm the most beautiful and my father got more power than the rest of the officials. Jiang Liu said it with arrogance. All of you just need to wait for an invitation to my and the general's wedding. I promise you it will be the biggest wedding ever. Interrupted by someone. Jiang Liu quickly looked over who dared to interrupt her. Is it true you and the general are going to get married? Li Wei Wei asked in a worried tone. Li Wei Wei and Chi happened to go to the same tea shop. She accidentally heard that the general is getting married. Naturally, she is happy for him and she hopes that the lady is kind. But when Jiang Liu said it was her who getting married to the general, she felt her world shattered. She is afraid that the thing in the novel will repeat itself. Yes, why are you jealous? You better leave my general alone and... Before she could finish talking, Li Wei Wei already left. Li Wei Wei couldn't hear Jiang Liu swearing at her or anything around her. She felt like she had failed. Jiang Liu is the character of the general's wife who left him for another man. No, it can't happen again. Chi, what am I supposed to do? Her eyes filled with tears. Li Wei Wei feels so frustrated. Chi couldn't do anything except hug her miss. It is okay, miss. I don't know any of the things you're saying, but I know it had some relation with the general, right? Li Wei Wei hummed while thinking for some ways. Chi, let's head to the Feng Manor. I cannot wait anymore. But miss, it is not proper for an unmarried lady to visit a man at his manor. Chi is afraid of another rumor about her miss. I don't care, let's go. Li Wei Wei drags Chi along the way. She just wanted to talk to him. Should she send a letter? That would take a long period, right? Why are ancient rules so many? Chapter 8. General Feng Manor. After a while, they finally arrived at his manor. She can imagine how big the manor is from the inside. Guards are guarding the front door. Li Wei Wei politely asked the guard whether the general was at his manor or not. Fortunately, he is at home. But she is not sure if he is willing to see her or not. So she asked for help from the guard to tell the general she was there. Before the guard could step inside his study room, a voice rang. Is it something important? The guard then replied in one breath. There is someone outside, she wants to see you. Feng Xujin angrily said. I already told you I'm not in the mood to greet someone. Ask that person to go back. But she told me to tell you that Li Wei Wei is here to see you. Hearing this, he unexpectedly looks up so quickly. But the guard couldn't see him as he was outside of the room. Where is she? Outside, General. Tell her to wait for a bit. The guard nodded quickly. Walking outside, he wear a stoned face scared Chi-Chi but not Li Wei Wei. Chi-Chi then asked for permission to leave so she didn't bother her miss. Li Wei Wei immediately greets the general in front of her. General, how are you? It has been a while. Looking at him up and down, she shrugged. Seems like he is safe. Looking down at the petite girl, he noticed that her eyes were red. Feng Xujin could tell it was due to crying. Why are you crying and why did you want to see me? He doesn't know why that question came out smoothly. This question surprised her. She did not expect him to ask that. She felt her heart flutter, but quickly ignored it. It was nothing. I want to ask you, is it true that you are going to marry Prime Minister's daughter Jiang Liu? Li Wei Wei is going to give up if it's the truth. Maybe she couldn't change his fate. Why? He is extremely curious as to why Li Wei Wei asked about it. But hearing the name Prime Minister's daughter, he snapped. Who says I'm going to marry Prime Minister's daughter? Li Wei Wei was a little startled by his angry tone. His face started to turn cloudy and moody. Really? Then it's good. I thought you gonna marry her. I will take my leave first. She smiled relieved while she said that. Before he could say anything else, she started to leave. She always left before I could say anything. Luxurious tea shop. Zhao Li is the only friend Feng Xujin had. A bit different from Feng Xujin, he is playful. He is also one of the Lord Marquis' sons. They've been friends since childhood. Feng Xujin considered Zhao Li one of the most annoying people he has ever met. But he also knows Zhao Li is very serious when it comes to work. Planning a meetup in the tea shop. Zhao Li and Feng Xujin currently occupied a private room in the corner, far away from others. Our spy in the Mongolian tribes informed me that they are going to rebel. They plan to rebel next year. Zhao Li started the conversation. I am well informed about this. His Majesty is currently trying to use the marriage as an alliance with them. Feng Xujin replied casually. But we don't have any princess. Will His Majesty pick one of the officials' daughters as a sign of the treaty? Pity the lady who's going to be chosen. Hearing this, Li Wei Wei's face suddenly pops up in Feng Xujin's head. He is about to say something, but Zhao Li interrupts him. I heard His Majesty gave special treatment to Minister Li's daughter Li Wei Wei. Is it because His Majesty already set his eyes on? Before Zhao Li could finish it, the sound of the wine cup shattered filled the room. Zhao Li looked at his friend. He could feel the atmosphere in the room change in an instant. With his hand bleeding due to glass piercing into his flesh, Feng Xujin finally let out a sentence. No one in this world can use her as a cannon fodder for their benefits, even if it is the emperor. Hearing this, Zhao Li discovered that Li Wei Wei is someone important in his friend's heart. Trying to ease up the situation, Zhao Li makes up an excuse. I'm just joking, Jean, or don't be so serious. I believe His Majesty will choose someone else. Feng Xujin only glared at him. He unconsciously feels the need to protect her. Unknown to them, a man is listening to their conversation. Feng Xujin would know if someone is eavesdropping their conversation, but this man is also highly expert in martial arts. That man managed to hide himself with much difficulty as he knew Feng Xujin's martial arts was no joke. Smirking, he felt very satisfied that he gained the biggest secret of the great general. Seeing that Feng Xujin and his friend leaving, he comes out too. He is the prince of a foreign country. His name is Daku Sin. He has been holding a grudge against the general because of their old fight. Li Wei Wei, how did you become this bastard's person? Pity you. Daku Sin feels a bit sorry for her, but he has no choice since she is the only way to defeat Feng Xujin. Chapter 9 Ministerly Manor. Li Wei Wei's day passed by without doing anything. She feels so bored. Spending all the time with ancient books and embroidery is a bit difficult. So she plans on going to the city to watch some shadow play. The sun shines so brightly forces Li Wei Wei to wake up. Covering her yawning mouth, she glances around her room looking for Chi-Chi. Today Li Wei Wei is wearing a yellow hanfu with white draped clothes. The color suits the weather as today the sun shone so brightly. Leaving the manor. Her mother has told her to take the carriage, not to walk around like usual. She had no choice but to follow her mother's instructions. Li Wei Wei and Chi-Chi finally arrived at the ancient theater. She didn't expect there are going to be a lot of people. While watching it, she also saw some of them playing firecrackers. That game immediately got her attention and she forgot that she had left Chi-Chi at the theater. Watching it with a curious face, she whispered, "It is the same as the firework in the modern world." All of a sudden, the crowd begins to swarm around her. She tried to get out of there, but suddenly a hand held her waist. Li Wei Wei was so shocked that she tried to get rid of those hands away from her. But when she looked down, there was a small knife next to her waist. Afraid the man was going to do something worse, she quickly said, "I have the money, you can take everything. Please let me go," but the culprit replied, "Sure, but first let's get out of here." Nodding her head so fast as she is so afraid. They are finally at a quiet place. Li Wei Wei tries to be brave and turn around to see that person. But before she could do so, that person hit her in the back and made her faint. Unconscious Chang'an City. The extremely anxious Chi-Chi cried after she found out her miss was nowhere in sight. She runs around the theater trying to find her missing. Asking the people nearby was no use. These events left her on the verge of having a breakdown. Left with no choice, Chi-Chi sprint back to Ministerly Manor. "What? How did she go missing? Have you looked around?" Madame Li was about to faint hearing this matter, but she tried to maintain calm. Chi-Chi then explains to her every detail that she knows. Someone this instant tells Ministerly to come back right now. Tell him about the incident secretly, quickly go. Madame Li is about to lose her patience. Her daughter went missing, how could she calm down? The palace's court, just like their usual day. The officials will discuss the country with the ruler. Every one of them gives their own opinion, while the emperor will consider everything before he passes a decree. Feng Xujin is also there. He is considered one of the most important officials as he holds the military power. His relationship with the emperor is also good. They respect each other. In the middle of the discussion, an eunuch in a green robe rushed into the court. He quickly bows down. This servant does not mean to interrupt, but one of the official's wives has something important to tell him. It is an emergency. Hearing this, the emperor forgave him and replied, "Who is the official? Quickly tell him to go back. Maybe it is a very important matter." The eunuch thanks the emperor for his generosity and accidentally tells His Majesty the truth due to nervousness. It was Ministerly. His daughter went missing in the middle of the capital. Madame Li currently waiting for his presence. The stone-faced might look like nothing is wrong, but his heart fills with some unexplainable emotions. "Your Majesty, the servant will leave first. Thank you for your generosity." Without any delay, Ministerly takes his leave. Per that girl. Has she lost her way or otherwise? The emperor whispered to himself. It didn't escape Feng Xujin's ear. "Your Majesty, this general will take his leave first. Anything else, please inform the eunuch to tell me later." Feng Xujin immediately leaves. He didn't even wait for His Majesty's permission. Riding his horse in a hurry, Feng Xujin stops abruptly in front of his manor and his loud and stern can be heard. "Shadow Guard, search for Li Wei Wei and tell me her whereabouts as soon as possible." The Shadow Guard disappeared in an instant. Today's journey comes to an end. But the love story of Li Wei Wei and General Feng Xujin will forever remain in our hearts. Thank you for joining us. See you next time.